Hello, welcome. Okay, so this one's going to be a little bit more ad-libbed. It's now no longer that early on a Tuesday morning over here in Britain. I got up at around the time that the open beta went live, which was 3 in the morning. So I made sure I got to bed early, so it wasn't too bad. And I got my tea and I got my sweets. By the way, the footage in the background won't necessarily relay against what I'm saying. I think that's okay. It's just some examples while I get some thoughts out. And yeah, it was so exciting. So how am I going to go through this? First of all, performance was a big concern for me and still kind of is. The game has 2 modes on PS5. There's one that targets fidelity, one that targets performance. Fidelity is more that sharper, crisper image, but 30 FPS. Not that consistent. And then the other one targets a higher frame rate, but everything is blurry as crap, man. I couldn't quite believe it. Even going into the character creator screen, everything was just shimmery and ill-defined, and then you go out to the Windward Plains and you see the whole area seems like it's just a shimmery, blurry mess. There's a siren going past. Someone's doing illegal activities at 7:30 on a Tuesday morning for some reason. Come on, you should be getting to work. Anyway, we're taking the day off like me. I wanted to play the higher FPS version, and I'm not normally a fidelity snob. I usually go, doesn't really care. I don't really care. And like when I watch those Digital Foundry videos and they're saying, oh, this is 1440 versus this is 1080, I can't always tell the difference, to be honest. But this is bad. So I ended up going against what I normally do and switching over to the fidelity mode. And I gotta say that once you get used to the 30 FPS, it's not the end of the world. The game does look really nice at that point though, and there's some especially beautiful moments. I'm not going to spoil it, but when Radar goes to his lair, that place is absolutely breathtaking. I'll put up a VOD potentially at some point of it, and my jaw was to the floor. So, on to the Lance, the whole personality I've built this small little channel around so far. It's really different now. Each hit feels really weighty in a good way. It's not really slow. It's such a weird paradigm shift, getting used to no longer countering anymore. Now it's you block when the guard happens, your hunter hits back with their shield. And it does damage, kind of like with the guard bash skill in Sunbreak, which is fun, but sometimes I wonder whether I got hit by a follow-up attack because the hunter was doing that blocking motion. I had a lot of issues with Doshaguma because he has these weird drawn-out multi-hit combos that aren't like boom boom, they're like boom boom boom, and like there's this one where he does a kind of Rajang, like tears up the ground underneath you, and I think either the hitbox is behind you or it's an attack that requires guard up, which is pretty screwed up for like what is essentially a demo where you don't get any choice over that. But outside of that, it's a really welcome change actually to feel the impact of what you're doing with your counters, and you actually have a bit more options in terms of what you're doing. The one that will come up a lot is the payback thrust, which is the one where you launch yourself up into the air. It's actually not got that much commitment to it, and it feels pretty good. And then that leads us on to the not insta block anymore, but perfect guard. And one thing I'm noticing straight off the bat is it's actually really lenient in terms of the timing for it. You don't have to be absolutely smack bang on, which is good because when you're running at 30 FPS, you do need that leniency. I can't quite tell, but I think you might have reduced chip damage stamina drain and knockback, but you certainly have different follow-up options when doing a perfect block. And actually, a couple of them are really interesting. For example, that payback thrust, when you do it out of a perfect block, you can actually direct it in kind of like you do with a power guard, which is really cool. And then the other one is when you hit both attack buttons at the same time, you do a dash attack, but it's a specific one that has like a couple of stabs at the start of it. So I guess that might be useful for if you're insta block a projectile attack and then you close the distance. The dash attack felt pretty good, I've got to say. Another thing I noticed is that going from leaping thrust into guard dash takes a bit of practice. The game wants to do other actions before that. I think you've got to really I found that if you really hold down the buttons, you get a lot more success for the guard dash part of it. Okay, what else have we got here? Just looking at some notes. Oh yeah, going beyond thrust 3. We can go beyond thrust 3 now. We've got the triple poke, which is pretty fun and pretty easy to do. And we've got the charged counter. This was a surprising success in my mind. Basically, when you get to the end of the triple poke, you can either press triangle to do your bomb, 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 and after the first bomb, bomb, you can block or go into a power guard. I think power guarding is going to be quite important in this game because it just felt like at times you needed to know how to quickly go into a power guard for like a follow-up move, but it's quite easy at the moment to kind of fumble your controls because you're not quite used to it yet, and you end up doing something else. So yeah, there's the triple thrust, or there's this thing called the charged counter, where you hold down circle and it looks a bit like the old counter state where you hunker down and you start glowing. I think it's maybe white, then yellow, then red, and then I think it automatically happens, like you automatically thrust forwards once you're beyond red, but you have to manually do it if you want to use it as a counter. I hope this is making some sort of sense. Basically, you start charging, and if you can get it so that a monster hits you in that time, you can time it so that you manually release the button, you'll block that, and then you'll do a double thrust in payback. I can't remember what it's called, but it's its own specific thrust, and it does quite a lot of damage, for a lance, and it seems block the attack. You are vulnerable though if it doesn't automatically block the attack. You can also just manually release it and it'll do a thrust, so there's that option as well. Okay, yeah, so that's the lance. Talking about the monsters a bit, we've got Cachacabra, who's pretty easy and fun and quite small. He's really enjoyable. I don't think there's a huge amount to say about him, and I don't think you'll have much problem with him. I like his design a lot. So at this early stage, we're talking A tier for him. We'll see how it is when the game comes out. Then we've got Doshaguma, who is kind of looking like an early F tier. I'm not gonna lie. He has some really annoying tendencies. His core mechanic is that he hangs around in packs, as I'm sure most of you know, but that gets really annoying because he keeps moving all the time, so you hardly ever get to have actual combat with him in a space for any extended period of time. And there's quite a lot of monsters on the map that can come in and get in your space and end up distracting him. He also has this really annoying movement where you often end up attacking his behind because all his moves end up with his front facing away from you afterwards, and it's quite difficult to get around him. And then he has that one move where he kind of tears up the ground underneath you. I've not worked out how to counter that with Lance yet. It's really annoying. And then we have Radar. I think that's how you pronounce it. And he's flipping fantastic. I honestly didn't think I would think that. I thought he would be a generic Flying Wyvern, he is kind of that way, but he has like the coolest sound. The sound in this game is just gorgeous, by the way. There's so much impact and scale, I guess, to it. Anyway, Radar's sounds that he makes are brilliant. The lighting is gorgeous around him. He has some really great looking, what's the word? There's a great smoothness and flow to him. And like I say, where he goes to rest is stunning. I was doing really well till I got to that place where he rests, and then for reasons I won't disclose, I double carted. But that's okay. It is quite the experience, and it makes me really excited for what's ahead. Another thing that was great, by the way, when you're in the storm, there's all these surrounding sounds that happen that are really, really cool. Not just the lightning, there's just these kind of ethereal sounds. Awesome. So anyway, yeah, those are my initial thoughts that I wanted to get across. I'm going to be trying to do some sort of guide to the Lance, so that anybody who wants to try it out can get up and running. It will have a startup component. I'm going to try and get that out today, but we'll see. Hey, that might not end up happening. So yeah, what did you think? Have you played it yet? Are you enjoying it? I would say I'm enjoying it, definitely. It's just really compromised on performance. I don't really think they're going to make massive changes on that between now and the release of the product. So PS5 Pro, I can't really justify getting a new PC right now. So anyway, hope you're doing really well. Have a lovely day, enjoy the open beta, and I'll catch you on the other side.